For me, running is libertad. It's liberation, it's freedom. The trail is sort of that place where I'm able to be unequivocally who I am. And I take that energy and I take it into the world. And that's what I try to give people: joy, hope, and that magic that you can only experience when you go into the woods. Being able to look beyond what you have is what I think opens up to other worlds, and imagining yourself being more than just what has been offered to you. So much of my work really connects to freedom, whether it's people that are kidnapped or people that are in jail or people that are prisoners of their immigration status or that are in an abusive relationship or addiction. These are sort of those walls that we make that are imaginary but are very real to us. Running is really that tool to break those walls and be able to understand that you have the power to go beyond them.
All right, want to give us a clap?
I'm Carolina Rubio MacWright, and I am an immigrant and a dreamer and a builder of new worlds. And an immigration lawyer and a mom, and an executive director of Touching Land, which is a nonprofit I founded a few years ago. So I started running when I was in 4th grade in Colombia. It essentially became sort of like my oxygen. One of the running coaches sort of taking me to a meet, and I ended up winning, I think it was the 1200. That was the beginning of my running journey. You know, growing up in civil war was very traumatizing for someone who feels so deeply like I do. I think running was like that piece of magic that I found in my farm in the outskirts of Bogota. I could run in the mountains and like hide and build forts and do anything. That was sort of my connection to running and to that connection with nature and that connection of freedom. Ever since I was a kid, I really wanted to be a criminal defense attorney. That was my goal going to law school. My second year of law school, my civil law professor sat me down and he was like, "You're not going to be able to be a criminal defense attorney because here you either get a bullet or you become corrupt." And so that was incredibly demoralizing. Colombia started becoming really, really unstable. At school, we would have bomb threats all the time. You know, there would be kidnappings. I didn't understand why I got to go to school, even though it was very guarded, but others would be begging for food on the street. That fear of that could be me, or why does this happen? Sort of like the inequities were really hard for me to digest as a very young kid. I was in school from 7 to 9 p.m. and so I was getting followed by different cars. We were getting threats of kidnapping, and so we had to leave the country really quickly. Coming to this country and being able to experience freedom was incredibly liberating. I'll give you one example. You know, I couldn't drive in Colombia with my windows down because people could snatch. Lots of different things could happen. So you would drive with your windows up, even though it was hot, you would just sort of manage. And so being able to bring my windows down in highways and on roads was just such a joy. You know, I feel like when you don't have freedom and the ability to make those choices, you really sort of taste everything in a magnified way. I have the best husband in the world named Tom. I have 2 kids, Micaela, who's 12, and Mateo, who is 9. And we have a doggy, Bamboo, and about 2,000 bees. That's my family. I wake up at 5, 4:30, depending on how many miles I have to do, but they have to be done by 7 a.m. because by 7 a.m. I have to walk through the door and start all of the things of breakfast and lunch, wake up the children, make sure they're dressed, make sure they have their homework, make sure they have sort of like all they need. Then I drop them at school, then I come back and I either lift weights or I sit down and start answering emails and working on whatever project I have going on. I try to work around their schedule as much as possible, but they get it. And it's because they've also found that passion in climbing. They've become very competitive, but with themselves and with the idea of using their body to problem solve and to explore walls and explore different places. And so I think I've been incredibly inspired by their dedication It's been really fun to see them understand why this matters to me and get it. I'm running Western States this year, and I'm very excited about it. Western States is like the holy grail of ultras in the US. It is a 100-mile race. It's a race that starts at Olympic Valley and it ends in Auburn. It's about 19,000 feet of elevation, 23,000 of loss, and you have to complete it in 30 hours. So it's really exciting that I have this opportunity to go have some fun. Tom and the kids are gonna be at Western States. I think it's such an epic race and it's such a special experience that I want them to be part of it, and hopefully they can run that last mile with me. So yeah, I'm excited that they're gonna be in for like the full experience of what the trail magic is about. So at Touching Land, we do all sorts of different projects, including now running. Given what running is to me and how it enables me to feel freedom, it's a connector in that it's an equalizer and it allows for vulnerability to show up. I've been developing these workshops and running groups. I've been working with different groups of West African men that are now migrating into New York. The goal there is men are generally treated different by the immigration system, especially Black men. And so it's been really important for me to try and bring visibility to these men. And displacing ourselves through Brooklyn, through New York, and making them visible is really important. Making them visible in doing a joyous thing. You could tell people might be uncomfortable, not quite understanding, but it becomes part of the fabric. So running with these men has been super important for the community, but also for them, because they're able to have the tools in order to be able to go and run and learn about the neighborhood and understand that, you know, when we run, I point out to nonprofits or resources or the cafe, like Patricia's Cafe is a safe space where they will always have a meal, they will always be welcome there and can just like take a moment to breathe and take a moment to just be human again. When these West African men land in New York, they have nothing. A lot of people cross the border with no shoes, just like barefoot. Working with these men and being able to give them shoes from my running group. I'll get texts from the men saying, that's the most joy I have felt in months. I finally felt like a human again. It might seem very silly, but it's incredibly remarkable when you have nothing.
Thank you, HOKA. Thank you.
I think we imagine that change has to be this like great big thing that we do, and it really is not. It's about those small choices that you make every day, whether it be about donating your shoe, whether it be about having a conversation with a person in the bodega, but find what calls on you. And I invite you to see what nonprofits or who is building change in your community at a grassroots level, because that's where the magic is about. It is in seeing the other and seeing yourself in the other that builds that humanity and leads to change. If you imagine it, you can build it, is essentially what I believe in. And it's, why not?